welcome. Tonight, the president moves to calm frayed nerves over the impact of fuel subsidy removal on citizens, allocates 200 billion naira agriculture and provision of buses for transportation. Senate appeals to organized Labour not to embark on strike as it screens 14 out of the 28 ministerial nominees sent to the upper legislative chamber by the president for confirmation. Maintain synergy to effectively tackle insecurity. The president challenges newly appointed service chiefs as he decorates them with their new ranks. And at least 6 people, including a 10-year-old girl and her mother, killed by Russian missile strike on President Zelensky's home city.
On business news tonight, federal government announces plan to support 1,300 MSMEs across the country with 50,000 naira each for 8 months.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria draws 0-0 with Ireland to seal their place in the last 16 of the FIFA Women's World Cup and a likely date with England.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, the Acting Inspector General of Police sets up Schools Protection Squad as part of the move towards security of lives and property in schools.
And some cherry news to calm frayed nerves following the anxiety generated by the removal of the fuel subsidy by the federal government. The president today made it known that the nation has saved about 1 trillion naira since the announcement and that part of the funds will be channeled to support development in the country. While appealing to Nigerians to show good faith at this difficult time, the president also reeled out some urgent interventions to moderate cost of living, including 100 billion naira for agriculture and another 100 billion naira to provide buses for transportation.
My fellow citizens,
this is President Bola Tinubu's second nationwide broadcast after his inauguration on May the 29th. And it comes at a time when the nation is still grappling with the rise in the price of petrol as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy convoluted by high inflation, industrial action by resident doctors, and threat of strike action by organized labor. And the president wasted no time in making a case why subsidy must go and what is done so far.
To be blunt, Nigeria could never become the society it was intended to be as long as such small, powerful, yet unelected groups hold enormous influence over our political economy and the institutions that govern it. The whims of the few should never hold dominant sway over the hopes and aspirations of the many.
The gains of subsidy removal are already trickling in, according to President Bola Tinubu.
In a little over 2 months, we have saved over 1 trillion naira that would have been squandered on the unproductive fuel subsidy, which only benefited smugglers and fraudsters. That money will now be used more directly and more beneficially for you and your families. For example, we shall fulfill our promise to make education more affordable to all and provide loans to higher education students who may need them. No Nigerian student will have to abandon higher education because of lack of money.
While appealing to Nigerians to show understanding, the president explains how 200 billion naira of the 500 billion naira loan will be deployed to support transportation and agriculture across Nigeria.
We have made provision to invest 100 billion between now and March 2024 to acquire minimum of 3,000 units of 20-seater CNG fuel buses. These buses will be shared to major transportation companies in the state using the intensity of travel per capita. Participating transport companies will be able to access credit under the facility at a maximum per annum 9% interest rate with 60 months repayment period.
Part of measures to support manufacturing enterprises and MSMEs is a provision of single-digit loans by the federal government.
We are going to spend 75 billion between July 2023 and March 2024. Our objective is to fund minimum of 75 enterprises with great potential to kickstart a sustainable economic growth, accelerated structural transformation, and improved productivity. Each of these 75 manufacturing enterprises will be able to access 1 billion credit at maximum of 9% per annum, with maximum of 60 months repayment for long-term loans and 12 months for working capital.
The president has consistently maintained that the challenges of today is for a greater good in the future. Whether or not citizens agree with his position will be interpreted by their response as individuals and groups in the coming days. Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, organised labour say they will go ahead with their planned protest on Wednesday over the removal of fuel subsidy. They stated this position following a meeting between the labour unions and the government team on palliatives at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress said the plan for workers to proceed on a peaceful protest from Wednesday has not changed. Meanwhile, the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, said they adjourned the meeting to listen to the broadcast of President Bola Tinubu, and he's hopeful Labour will reconsider their stance on the protest after listening to the president.
We decided to adjourn this meeting till 12 noon tomorrow. Before, I guess, Labour can decide whether or not they want to continue with their protest on Wednesday. But we believe that after tonight's broadcast, the president will speak to all the issues. He will roll out his interventions, and needless to say, we believe any reasonable person will tell you that at that point there will be no need for any protest.
Well, our peaceful rally will go on as scheduled. You know, even if we didn't have this problem and we decide to hold a rally, we still hold our rallies. So this rally has been fixed for 2nd, and we'll go ahead to hold our rally.
Still on the fuel subsidy removal, the Senate opened plenary to consider several matters of national importance, such as the proposed strike by the Nigeria Labour Congress. The Senate passed a motion seeking to stop the nationwide action declared by the union's leadership and mandated its leadership to have an interface with President Bola Tinubu as well as the NLC. Senators who contributed to the debate on the motion, moved by Senator Sulaiman Kawu from Kano South, appealed to the federal government to immediately come up with a comprehensive palliative to cushion the effects of subsidy removal. They also appealed to the leadership of the NLC to halt the strike pending the meeting with the executive arm of government on the matter. The Labour Union had asked its affiliates across the country to begin an indefinite strike from Wednesday, August the 2nd, in order to protest the hardship that's currently being experienced by Nigerians as a result of the subsidy removal. Meantime, staying with the Senate, they've screened 14 ministerial nominees who will make up President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. The majority of the nominees were not made to answer probing questions, but were accorded the privilege of what is known in legislative practice as taking a bow and go. National Assembly correspondent Linda Kibre reports that the Senate will announce the confirmation of the nominees at a later date.
As one of the ministerial nominees, first, I'm a graduate of the University of Benin, where I read engineering, and also master's degree in University of Lagos. I also have a master in public administration from Subsidy University. And I have no doubt in mind that if you claim me as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will bring in my wealth of experience to bear on the governance of this nation. And I will also work hand in hand with my colleagues in the executive to make sure that the policy of government and the policy of our president are executed in the way and manner that he wants them. Whichever ministry I think I find myself today, I think I'll do my best. If you check my CV, apart from my educational background, I'm a professional engineer. I'm a registered member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and a Korean register. So I think, Mr. President, sir, I'm sufficiently equipped to face any challenge as far as any of the ministry is concerned when elected. As long as the party has its own policy and its programs, I will face those policies and programs and execute them to the best of my ability.
As a governor, then, in my 4 years in the second tenure, I've never left my state and slept outside my state. I've made sure that I'm in my state to take the challenges, to solve the problems of my people. And that's why when I was living like a hero. They escorted me home, where women brought out their wrappers and laid on the ground and said, "March on the wrapper, welcome our son. You have done very, very well." Till 27th of May, while I was living to 27th of May, Mr. Senate President, I was commissioning, I was flagging off a project. This thing can be achieved if you are committed, if you have passion for the job. There are so many people who want to be minister, who want to be governor, for the sake that I was a governor, for the sake that I was a minister. But there are those who say, look, what do I want to offer? Am I committed to this job? And I thank Mr. President for nominating me. I believe, knowing how hungry Mr. President is to solving the problems of Nigeria, we have no choice but to give him that required support. And I can assure you, if I'm confirmed, in whatever capacity, Mr. President will not regret nominating me.
Screening exercise.
Staying with the screening, 4 female nominees also appeared before the lawmakers today, including Dr. Betta Edu and Iman Ibrahim.
We must get the right governance and the right structure from the top all the way down to the health facilities. Who are those manning it? Who are the managers? Who are the planners? Is it properly planned? And what are those adjustments and streamlining that needs to happen? Like a distinguished senator rightly said, there are federal medical centers everywhere, there are teaching hospitals everywhere. How functional are they? What quality of service can they offer? As it concerns the health workers that are leaving, a couple of things can be done. Number one, we can change the payment structure for health workers to see that they get better incentives and they can stay on. They are leaving because probably a country like Saudi Arabia promises a greener pasture, and that's why they're leaving. Number two, we can make the environment more conducive for them to stay so that they can thrive and deliver their health services. Number three, it's important for us to create another structure where health workers can be employed outside the direct structure that we have now. In the United Kingdoms, I'll give you an example. You have the doctors who are on locum and they still work in the NHS, and you have the doctors who are employed by the NHS directly. So some are employed through agencies and then some directly. This way you can sip in every single health worker from wherever they are. We need every one of them. I would also want to suggest that as a matter of urgency, our medical institutions across the nation should be improved to train more health practitioners that will go into the system.
Our migration problems is as a result of man-made disasters, which are the conflicts, the banditry, terrorism, and also the natural disasters which we cannot control, climate change, which is predominantly our problem. After the flood of the end of last year, we doubled the number of IDPs from about 3-point-something million to over 5 million IDPs. That is an issue of concern. As a country, we're very good in responding to emergencies, but we're not very good in addressing consequences or root causes. And it's something that we must do collectively as a people.
In part two, after the break, the President challenges newly appointed service chiefs to maintain synergy in tackling insecurity as he decorates them with their new ranks. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The president moves to calm frayed nerves over the impact of fuel subsidy removal on citizens, allocates 200 billion naira, agriculture and provision of buses for transportation. Senate appeals to organize Labour not to embark on strike as it screens 14 out of the 28 ministerial nominees sent to the upper legislative chamber by the president for confirmation. Maintain synergy to effectively tackle insecurity. The president challenges newly appointed service chiefs as he decorates them with their new ranks. And at least 6 people, including a 10-year-old girl and her mother, killed by a Russian missile strike on President Zelensky's home city. And more state governors are also unveiling measures to cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal on citizens. Here in Lagos, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced a reduction in public transport fares by 50%. The governor says the reduction will commence from August 2nd, 2023, while talks are, this has been confirmed that the private transport sector to slash fares by 25%. We understand the Danfo buses, the yellow ones. Governor Sanwo-Olu was speaking with newsmen shortly after a council meeting with security officials, including the Commissioner of Police, who briefed the council on the success of a special operation codenamed Operation Flush.
Immediately from Wednesday, all public transportation that are being controlled by Lamata, all of the high-capacity buses will be plying all the routes of Lagos at a 50% discount. All the commuters that will be plying on this route will start enjoying a 50% rebate on the current transport fare that are currently being charged on all of these buses, and this will start immediately from Wednesday. For the informal buses, they are also going to make a pronouncement today, and if I dare, can say to you that we've also agreed with them that they will be doing about 25% reduction, on their buses, all of the yellow buses, that we have on the streets. They will also make a formal announcement maybe later today on that. So that probably could take effect from tomorrow or latest on Wednesday, as I mentioned. The other means of relief that we will be passing on is we've also concluded discussions with our various stakeholders. We'll be passing, once the concluded arrangements are in place, foodstuffs to the very vulnerable in our society, the poorest of the poor. We'll be using interventions with various stakeholders, civil society groups, CDCs and CDAs, various churches and mosques, our traditional rulers, our local government, and so we will send around daily foodstuff, rice, beans, gari, and all of the things that can cushion the effects, of the current hardship that we have in the state.
We're back to the presidency, where the president is challenging service chiefs to maintain teamwork as they tackle the challenge of insecurity in the country. President Bola Tinubu stressed the importance of synergy among the armed forces today while decorating the newly appointed service chiefs with their new ranks. He gave them the assurance that government is committed to supporting them in their responsibilities. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, reports.
The service chiefs with their family members arrive at the villa for the decoration ceremony. They then make their way into the council chamber. A few minutes later, the president arrives, accompanied by the vice president and other top government officials. One after the other, the officers are called and their citations are read.
PSS, BSc,
It was then time for the officers to be decorated, a task their wives help with. The president, while congratulating the officers, assured them of government's support. He emphasized teamwork as the key to their success.
To form a united team and see Nigerian sovereignty, I was one cardinal issue that must be upheld always.
The president also had a word for Nigerians.
Take the message home. We are with you in prayers, and we are committed to serving you, not to rule you. It is obvious that economic situation is biting, but that is what we must face. We are one single family. Like I always say, no matter how diverse we are one family, staying in the same house, but living in different rooms.
It was then time for pictures. Speaking for the newly decorated service chiefs, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, thanked the president for the honor and pledged their loyalty to the country.
Ideally, the military shouldn't have any issue of working together as a team. So I can assure Nigerians that you have the best team ever, and we're ready to work and we're hitting the ground running.
A member of the legislature who was present at the ceremony highlights some of the issues they will want the new chiefs to focus on.
We want to look critically at their welfare. We're going to ensure that the MAFA, which is a code that determines the welfare of the armed forces, is rigorously implemented.
The ceremony is over and it is time for action, exactly as the president said, and the Chief of Defense Staff has said he also will work according to the president's instructions. He's also said that he and his team are ready. They believe in the sanctity of democracy and they will do all they can to support the president, even as he tries to put things in place in ECOWAS and on the African continent. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
And Victor Matthias has more from our Abuja studios. Victor, it's good to see you. Happy New Week.
Absolutely, it's good to see you as well, Millicent. Happy New Week and welcome to the nation's capital. Now, Nigerian judges have been meeting in London to address and resolve judicial matters related to the virtual economy. The event saw presentations from federal agencies participating, such as the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. Our London correspondent, Juliana Layinka, has more.
His Excellency Ambassador Sharifa Tunji Ishola, the Nigeria High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, has opened the inaugural foreign training for Federal High Court judges, which is taking place in London this week. Programs over the next 5 days will cover a series of critical areas impacting the ever-evolving and complex virtual economy, including money laundering, financing of terrorism, and the regulation of virtual assets.
Benchmarks are very high now, and it's not possible to execute judgment in certain cases without resorting to electronic evidence building. So that's what we are here to discuss with them, and then also to converse for their own understanding of the money laundering, terrorism financing, which is a problem in Nigeria now, and proliferation of weapons issues and general areas of crime.
The judiciary must decide they want to reform themselves. Nobody can come out to reform the judiciary for them. But it requires a lot of investment. It requires a lot of training. Even outside, where we pride ourselves as being the first setters in terms of the IT infrastructure, there are also challenges in terms of bringing the witnesses, in terms of looking at the documents, in terms of exchanging addresses. But by and large, you can see that even the Chief Judge has alluded to the fact that they need to invest heavily on technology so that quite a lot of things could be done online, not physically in courts. And really, that's where the world is going to.
The court, which has grown structurally over the years, presently has divisions in all states of the Federation, including Abuja, where its headquarters is located.
This program actually is a catalyst to the sustenance of Nigeria's financial integrity. It is intended to ensure that our financial integrity is not fragmented.
Further training is scheduled for more judges next month. Juliana Olayinka, Channels Television News in London.
Now, still ahead on the news at 10, the federal government announces plan to support 1,300 MSMEs across the country with 50,000 naira each for 8 months. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, as part of a policy geared towards security of lives and property, especially safety of schools and students, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Kaide Egbetokun, has set up a schools protection squad. A statement by police spokesperson Muyiwa Adejobi explains that the police boss has also concluded plans to launch what he describes as a comprehensive standard operating procedure handbook for the Safe Schools program. He called on relevant stakeholders to support the initiative to ensure safety of schools and educational assets. Now, one of Nigeria's real estate and solution providing firm, GTEX Lands, a subsidiary of GTEX Homes and Holdings, had its Phase 1 groundbreaking launch for one of its lands estate, Sardius Estate in Guzape, Abuja. GTEX Lands, known for its development of green, eco-friendly real estate, says its mission is to provide 25,000 luxury service plots across Nigeria by 2035, and that the launch of its Sardius Guzape 2 land estate is in pursuit of that goal.
Sardius Estate Guzape 2 is located in an area regarded as one of Abuja's high-brow areas. The CEO of GTEX Lands gives insight on what led to the choice of Guzape district for the Phase 1 launch in Abuja.
Whenever we are buying landed property, we go into a strategic location that can attract the right set of people that can afford the property. And it is a luxury service plot, affordable for everyone. So here in Guzape 1, we already know, Guzape 1 is selling for 300 million naira. And then here in Guzape 2, we brought something that will help even the middle class own a land close to the Guzape 2 that is currently selling for 300 million or 350. At least with 80 million naira, you can own a plot here. Even with 40 million naira today, you can own a plot here.
Sardius Estate Guzape 2 promises to offer a luxurious lifestyle with a range of amenities designed to give value and make life easier for those who will own properties on it.
The plan is for us to own at least 5,000 luxury service plot across the 36 states in Nigeria. And by doing that, we go into locations like this, prime locations like this Guzape, to make sure that we buy a property that can help to bring the vision of developing, being the largest developer of green and smart homes in come 2035.
To launch this, just like I said, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
The real estate firm is said to be driven by sustainability, and the service plots, they say, will be luxurious, yet will be made affordable for the middle class.
We're making it affordable for people by creating a flexible payment plan for as long as 12 months in order for both the middle class to be able to afford this particular plot.
For many Nigerians, access to decent and affordable housing remains a critical challenge. While the government has a major role to play in closing the housing gap, the role of private sector-led investment can be pivotal in achieving this. GTEX Lands is one of such private investment that is on the journey to creating affordable luxury service plots.
And that's it from the nation's capital, but stay tuned as the news at 10 continues from Lagos with Millicent. Millicent, it's back to you.
Thank you, Victor. Staying with company news, Odua Investment Company Limited has reported growth of its assets by 3.9 billion naira in the 2022 financial year, despite a decline in profit and revenue. These results were, among others, presented by the board of the company to shareholders at its 41st annual general meeting in Lagos.
Board members, shareholders and representatives of the 6 owner Southwest states of Odua Investment Company Limited meet for the 41st time to receive and consider the company's financial performance in 2022. Mr. Bimbo Ashiru presides over the gathering in his first year as group chairman. In spite of decreased performance across key indicators, the company's total assets grew from 110.5 billion naira in 2021 to 114.5 billion naira in 2022. At the meeting, the board received shareholders' approval to pay out a dividend of 428 million naira.
What you are seeing now is the true position of the physical profit, and that's the reason why we could and we're able to recommend 428 million for the shareholders as against what we paid last year. We increased the dividends, so it clearly shows that the performance is higher. But you see, when you do the evaluation of assets, your profits increases, and that has been sorted out. So going forward, whatever you see is the real profit of the organization.
The company says it will invest more, especially as the company concludes plans to roll out its oil and gas portfolio, as well as continue with the upgrading and expansion of its subsidiaries.
The critical thing now is what you call a field development plan, which is technical, and you also have to fund it. So those detailed work is what is going on now to a level where we can get a field development plan approved by the regulatory authority, and then accordingly the investment to now go to site and do all the exploration and production can come forth. And that's why we estimate 18 months for us to have first oil production coming through.
From the AGM, attention shifts to another event, which is the launch of Odua Investment Foundation. The new entity will implement the CSR objectives of the group with focus on education, health, and youth empowerment. The advisory council of the foundation includes Mrs. Olatokunbo Awolowo Dosumu as chairman, Mrs. Onike Boakonde, and Mrs. Victoria Adunola Sampson as members. Other members are Mrs. Biodun Shobanjo, Olusegun Olugboyegun, Wole Olanipekun, and Adiremi Makondrola. The council will serve as an independent social corporate arm and complement the efforts of its owner state governments in impacting lives.
Business News is next. Here's Anne Waldo.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. In further efforts to drive financial inclusion in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu says the federal government plans to support micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs. The president, who made this known today in a nationwide broadcast, says that 1,300 nano business owners, which will be drawn from 774 local government areas across the country, will be given a grant of 50,000 naira each. Under the scheme, each enterprise promoter will be able to get between 500,000 naira to 1 million naira at 9% interest rate per annum and a repayment period of 36 months. According to him, this will be done by onboarding beneficiaries into the formal banking system. From there, we head to the domestic stock market. It ended the final day in the month of July in the red as the week begins now. John Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Unfortunately, we start on a red note. The final trading day in the month of July ends in the red. The all-share index shed more than 1%, 1.10% at 64,337.52. Just when I thought we were heading close to our 65,000, but we will not give up hope. Market cap is still around 35 trillion naira. But of course, what this means is that the bear is still holding on tight to the floor of the engine. Let's see how this happened. We see that the banking sector, the most liquid counter, dropped a whole lot. We saw Access Bank losing 5 kobo. We saw FBN holding 55 kobo. Zenith Bank 10 kobo. That's why we have banking down 2.55%. We've seen a lot of earnings not looking very good. The FX factor has been affecting most of these banks. Oil and gas is the only one smiling at this time. Subsidy removal is still doing them a whole lot of good. Corn oil gain today, as well as eternal oil, and that's why it's up 0.40%, while consumer goods is down 1.42% at the close of trade today. It's a mixed bag. Subsidy is good for some. FX factor is affecting other companies as more earnings continue to stream in. But this is the way we're starting this week and ending the month. Hopefully August will be better. That's the stock market report, and it's back to you.
That's business news. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Anne. Coming up next on the news at 10, at least 6 people, including a 10-year-old girl and her mother, killed by Russian missile strike on President Zelensky's home city. That's in Around the World in 5 when we return. At least 6 people, including a 10-year-old girl and her mother, have been killed by a Russian missile strike on the Ukrainian city of Kryvyi. Now, 69 others were injured, including 25 children. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international news.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Niger's ousted president has been seen for the first time since the military detained him in a coup last week. Mohamed Bazoum met Chad's leader, Mohamed Idriss Déby, in Niger's capital. Mr. Déby, who also met the coup leaders, is spearheading mediation efforts after West African leaders gave Niger's military 7 days to give up power. The junta has accused the ousted government of authorizing France to carry out an attack to try to free Mr. Bazoum. They have previously warned against foreign attempts to extract the president, saying it would result in bloodshed and chaos. Niger's Prime Minister has told French television that Mr. Bazoum has no intention of resigning.
I spoke again this morning here with President Bazoum. I've spoken as well with former President Issoufou. Spoken with other colleagues, including our French colleagues. Our team has been deeply engaged with multiple countries in the region, as well as critical organizations like ECOWAS, like the African Union. And we are united in condemning the actions that have taken place in Niger, calling for the immediate release of President Bazoum, calling for the immediate restoration of the democratic order in Niger.
Witnesses have described doomsday scenes unfolding in Pakistan after a suicide bomber targeted a political rally, killing at least 45 people. People screamed for help as rescuers rushed to the scene in the northwest Bajur district on Sunday. The attack targeted the Jamaat Ulema-e-Islam Fazl, a party that is part of the government coalition. Hundreds had turned up for the rally, which was an opportunity for the Islamist JUIF to rally its support ahead of an election expected to take place later this year. Fighting at a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, which left at least 9 people dead, has continued. The clashes at the Ain el-Hilwa camp broke out between Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas' Fatah movement and rival Islamist groups. Among the dead was a Fatah commander. Established in 1948, the restive Ain el-Hilwa camp is the largest in Lebanon, with more than 63,000 registered refugees. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian missile attack has killed 4 people, including a 10-year-old girl. Ukrainian emergency services published footage showing its workers hosing down flames at a missile strike site in Kryvyi Rog in central Ukraine. Meanwhile, state emergency services of Ukraine show what it said to be the moment divers detonated an underwater bomb in the Kharkiv region. Devastating floods have caused chaos in parts of China, with at least 2 people reported to have been killed as Typhoon Doksuri passed through Beijing. According to state broadcaster CCTV, more than 31,000 people have evacuated their homes in the city. Heavy rain continued to fall in Beijing, as well as Hebei, Tianjin, and eastern Shanxi, as Doksuri dissipated over northern China. Meanwhile, extraordinary footage has been released of a man rescued by firefighters in Wu'an City in Hebei after he was trapped in his car in a flooded river. And more than 150 dogs wearing colourful scarves on their necks have participated alongside their owners in a race through Venezuela's capital, Caracas, which was organised to seek support for animal shelters in the country. Dogs and their humans ran for 4 kilometres across eastern Caracas in the second edition of the dog running race. Under Venezuela's prolonged economic collapse, many have left pets in shelters or abandoned them on the streets. All participants paid the price of $30 to run with their pets, aiming to give animals a good quality of life while they wait for a family. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. It's time for sports news. The Super Falcons of Nigeria today tamed the initial Irish aggression to maintain a clean sheet and seal their place in the last 16 of the FIFA Women's World Cup after a goalless draw with Ireland in Brisbane for a likely encounter with England. The stalemate left Nigeria second behind co-host Australia in Group B, meaning they will meet the winner of England's Group D. Moving on to other stories, the Super Falcons defender, still on that story by the way, Ashley Plumter and midfielder Deborah Abiodun are already looking forward to a challenge in the knockout stages, and the girls share the same sentiment across the camp and wish them the very best as they look at that very special encounter in the round of 16. And away from the Women's World Cup, Saudi Arabia's Al Hilal have made an offer worth £120 million to Napoli for Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen, with wages offer in the region of £1 million per week. The 24-year-old was transfer target for Manchester United this summer, with talks over a new contract stalling in Napoli. And that's it on Sports News. Millicent, is back to you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu today moved to calm frayed nerves over the impact of fuel subsidy removal on citizens as he allocated 200 billion naira to agriculture and provision of buses for transportation. The president, who rolled out these measures in a nationwide broadcast, also appealed to Nigerians to show good faith at this difficult time. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.